Every man thinks his relationship is safe. You build a life together, shared memories, maybe even raised children. You believe love is enough, but one day, without warning, she looks at you differently. The laughter is gone, the spark is gone, and you're left wondering what happened. This isn't about you forgetting anniversaries or leaving dishes in the sink. It's about something far deeper. A hidden truth no one tells men. Women don't lose interest in long-term relationships because of problems in the relationship. They lose interest because of how their brains are wired, and that truth is terrifying. The silent shift nobody talks about. Every man in a long-term relationship will face this moment, though most never see it coming. At first, everything feels perfect. She's laughing at your jokes, texting you during the day just to say she misses you, reaching for your hand every chance she gets. You feel like the center of her universe. She looks at you with admiration, desire, even awe. You believe this feeling will last forever, but slowly, almost invisibly, something begins to change. You notice it when you come home from work, and instead of rushing to greet you, she barely looks up from her phone. Conversations that used to flow all night now turn into short, distracted exchanges. She spends more time with her friends, more time scrolling social media, and less time focusing on you. It's not dramatic at first, it's subtle, but it's there. The woman who once couldn't get enough of you now treats you like background noise. The spark you thought was unbreakable begins to flicker. And here's the painful truth. It's not because you forgot her birthday or because you don't vacuum the house often enough. It's not because you stopped loving her. It's because of something far deeper, something most men are never told about until they're standing in the ruins of their marriage, wondering what went wrong. Here's the secret. Women don't just fall in love with men. They fall in love with the way men make them feel. That means her attraction, her passion, her obsession with you in the early days wasn't really about you. It was about the feelings you triggered inside her. The butterflies, the rush, the thrill of being chosen. But those feelings are not designed to last forever. Nature built them to fade. At the beginning, you're new, you're exciting, you're unpredictable. Every kiss, every touch, every text fires her brain like fireworks. But the longer she's with you, the more her brain adjusts. What once felt like an adventure now feels like a routine. What once made her pulse race now barely registers. To you, this looks like progress, comfort, stability, loyalty. To her, it feels like a slow death. And here lies the paradox that destroys so many men. The very things you work hardest to give her, security, predictability, stability, are the very things that cause her to lose the spark. You think being reliable makes you a good partner. You think being loyal proves your love, and you're right. It does. But in her brain, those things don't light her up anymore. They make her feel safe, and safe is the enemy of excitement. Think about it like this. Imagine your favorite food. At first, it's amazing. You crave it constantly. But if you eat it every single day, no matter how much you loved it at the start, eventually it becomes ordinary. You don't hate it, you just don't feel the same thrill anymore. That's what happens in her mind. The excitement fades not because you failed, but because her biology recalibrated what you mean to her. Nobody warns men about this. Society tells you to be consistent, dependable, responsible. And you are. But nobody tells you that while you're busy building a life for her, she's quietly losing the rush that made her fall in love with you in the first place. She won't admit this to you. Maybe she doesn't even admit it to herself. Instead, she'll just say, I don't feel the spark anymore. This is the silent shift, the hidden truth no one talks about. Women don't lose interest because of problems in the relationship. They lose interest because the feelings that once intoxicated them are gone, and they don't understand why. And unless you recognize this early, you'll be blindsided when the woman who promised forever suddenly acts like she doesn't even know who you are. The biology of desire. If you want to understand that why women lose interest in long-term relationships, you can't just look at behavior. You have to look at biology. Attraction isn't random. It's not magic. It's chemistry, literally. And the cruel truth is that the chemistry that bonded her to you in the beginning is designed to fade. When you first met her, her brain was flooded with dopamine, the pleasure chemical. Every message from you, every kiss, every touch sent her into a high that felt addictive. Add to that oxytocin, the bonding hormone released during intimacy, and adrenaline, the rush of novelty and risk. The combination was intoxicating. To her, you weren't just a man, you were a drug. And like any drug, the effect was strongest at the beginning. Novelty made everything feel electric. Your laugh, your smell, the sound of your voice, it all created a surge of chemicals that lit up her brain like fireworks. That's why those early days felt so intense, almost unreal. She wasn't just falling in love with you. She was falling in love with the high her body produced every time she was around you. But here's the problem. The human brain is not designed to live in that state forever. If it did, people wouldn't go to work, raise families, or survive. That level of chemical intoxication is temporary, and the brain quickly adapts. What once gave her a rush now barely registers. The dopamine hits shrink. The oxytocin bonds weaken without constant novelty. The adrenaline disappears the moment you stop being new. This is why no long-term relationship can ever feel like the honeymoon phase forever. The biology won't allow it. What she interprets as falling out of love is really her brain recalibrating. The high is gone, and now she's left with reality, your personality, your habits, your stability. And while those are the very things that make a relationship last, they don't fire the same chemical pathways. Here's the tragic twist. Women don't understand this. Most believe those early feelings were true love, and that when the feelings fade, love must be gone. They don't realize it's not love that's disappearing, it's the chemical cocktail. So instead of understanding biology, they blame the relationship. They say, we grew apart. I just don't feel the same anymore. Something's missing. But let me make this crystal clear. Nothing is missing, nothing is broken. Her biology is simply doing what it was programmed to do. The fireworks had to end. They always do. Think of it like eating your favorite dessert. The first bite is heaven. The second bite is still good. By the 10th bite, it's just food. Nothing changed about the dessert. It's still sweet, still delicious. What changed is your brain's response to it. The thrill wore off. Now multiply that effect 100 times, and you understand what's happening in her mind after years with the same man. And here's where it gets dangerous. Instead of accepting this as normal, instead of building deeper love beyond chemistry, many women panic. They tell themselves, I must be with the wrong person. Real love should always feel exciting. If I don't feel butterflies, then I don't really love him. That's the lie biology whispers in her ear. And if she listens, the relationship is doomed. You need to understand this. Her boredom is not proof you failed. Her fading excitement is not proof the relationship is broken. It's proof her brain has adapted the same way it was always going to. But because nobody explains this to women, they confuse natural biology with personal dissatisfaction. They believe they have outgrown you when really they've just outgrown the chemical high. This is the biological trap. The reason she loses interest isn't that you stopped being attractive. It's not that you stopped trying. It's that the brain that once lit up in your presence has reset itself, and the feelings she craves now require novelty, something you can't provide after years together. Until men understand this, they'll always be blindsided. They'll think, what did I do wrong? When the truth is, you didn't do anything wrong, biology did. And once she believes that the problem is you instead of her brain, the countdown to the end of the relationship has already begun. The dangerous fantasy. When the chemical high of attraction fades, most women don't recognize it for what it is, biology doing its job. Instead, they tell themselves a story. A dangerous fantasy begins to take root in her mind. It starts small. She remembers how it felt in the beginning, the butterflies in her stomach, the late-night conversations that lasted until sunrise, the thrill of waiting for your call. But instead of seeing those feelings as a stage of love that naturally passes, she redefines them as the definition of love itself. To her, real love is supposed to always feel that way. So when the spark dies, she doesn't think, this is normal. She thinks something is wrong with us. I'm not in love anymore. That single thought is the beginning of the end. You'll see the signs. She starts talking about missing who she used to be. She scrolls through old photos, not with casual nostalgia, but with longing. She brings up ex-boyfriends, not with disgust, but with a strange warmth, as if she's secretly trying to relive those days. She listens to songs that remind her of her 20s. She might even say, "Remember how exciting things used to be between us?" But what she's really thinking is, why doesn't it feel like that anymore? And what if I could feel it again with someone else? This is the dangerous fantasy, the belief that those early fireworks can be reignited, not just once, but forever. She convinces herself that the problem isn't her brain adapting, but that you are no longer the right man. And once that thought takes hold, she starts looking outward. Social media pours gasoline on this fire. Every scroll shows her carefully curated highlight reels. Women her age starting over, flaunting new romances, posting filtered pictures with captions like "never settle" or "it's never too late." To her, these aren't just posts, they're proof. Proof that she doesn't have to accept her fading excitement. Proof that happiness is waiting, if only she's brave enough to leave. And entertainment reinforces it. Every movie, every TV show, every romance novel paints the same picture. If you're not feeling butterflies, you're not with the right person. The heroine never stays with the safe, predictable guy. She leaves him for the mysterious stranger who makes her feel alive again. And your wife, sitting next to you on the couch, starts comparing her ordinary life with your kids and mortgage to the fantasy on the screen. And in her heart, she feels cheated. But here's the irony. She's not chasing a man. She's not even chasing love. She's chasing a feeling. That intoxicating high she experienced at the beginning. The rush of being desired. The thrill of novelty. She doesn't realize that feeling wasn't true love. It was brain chemistry. It was temporary by design. And by chasing it, she's chasing a ghost. Yet once that fantasy takes hold, nothing you do will feel like enough. Your loyalty, expected. Your devotion, invisible. Your stability, boring. She doesn't want comfort. She wants chaos. She wants uncertainty, danger, risk. Because in her mind, those things equal excitement. This is the cruel trap men fall into. They try harder, buy flowers, plan vacations, whisper words of love, and it doesn't work. Because no matter what you do, you can't compete with the fantasy in her head. You can't compete with her memory of what you used to make her feel, or her imagination of what someone new might make her feel. This is why so many men are blindsided when women leave. It's not that she stopped loving you. It's that she convinced herself love means feeling a way that biology will never let her feel long-term. And instead of accepting reality, she chases the fantasy, no matter how many lives it destroys. That's the danger. Not the fading of love, but the rewriting of love. And once she rewrites it in her mind, your relationship is already living on borrowed time. The validation trap. If there's one force more powerful than fading chemistry, it's validation. Every man needs to understand this. A woman's self-worth has been tied to external validation since the moment she was a teenager. Compliments, attention, desire, these aren't luxuries to her. They're fuel. And when that fuel starts running low inside the safe walls of a long-term relationship, she will look for it elsewhere. Here's the cruel paradox. In the beginning, your attention was gold. Every text, every compliment, every glance made her feel special. But once she surrendered you, once you became her man, your validation lost its power. Why? Because in her mind, it became obligated. She expects it. It no longer feels like proof of her value. It feels like maintenance, like brushing your teeth. Necessary, but not exciting. But when someone outside the relationship, someone who has no reason to flatter her, gives her that same attention, it detonates inside her brain like dynamite. A stranger's compliment on her hair means more than a decade of loyalty from you. A casual smile from a coworker makes her feel alive in a way your devotion no longer can. Not because she doesn't value you, but because her brain craves the thrill of being chosen again. Think about that for a moment. You've spent years building a life with her. You've sacrificed, provided, stayed loyal. Yet one comment from a man she barely knows can outweigh all of it in her emotional world. Why? Because his attention is optional. He didn't have to give it. And in her mind, that makes it more real than the attention you give daily. This is the validation trap. And once she tastes it, once she feels that rush of being noticed by someone new, it's almost impossible to pull her back. It's not that she suddenly stops loving you, it's that she becomes addicted to the new high. And just like any addiction, the more she gets, the more she needs. You'll see the signs. She starts dressing differently, putting more effort into her appearance. Not for you, but for the outside world. She takes selfies at angles she never cared about before. She spends more time on social media, chasing likes and comments as if they were oxygen. And every little notification becomes another hit of dopamine, another reminder that she's still desirable. Meanwhile, your devotion, the devotion that should count the most, barely registers. Because in her mind, your love is locked in. You're married. You share kids. You're not going anywhere. Which means your attention doesn't prove she's still valuable. But the stranger at the coffee shop who looks twice? That proves it. That tells her she's still in the game. And here's the dark truth. This need for validation doesn't just fade with age. It intensifies. As time passes, as beauty inevitably changes, the fear of becoming invisible grows louder in her mind. And that fear drives desperate choices. Choices that destroy families. Choices that betray decades of loyalty. What enrages most men isn't that women seek validation. It's how easily that validation can outweigh everything they've built. You could be the perfect husband. You could do everything right. And it still wouldn't compare to the thrill of fresh attention from someone new. This is why so many long-term relationships collapse out of nowhere. The man thinks he's providing, protecting, doing his job. Meanwhile, his wife is starving. Not for love, but for validation. And when she finally tastes it from another source, she'll risk everything to keep getting it. The validation trap isn't about morality. It's not about good women versus bad women. It's about psychology. And psychology doesn't care how many years you've been married, how much you've sacrificed, or how loyal you've been. Psychology only cares about the next dopamine hit. And that, right there, is the brutal truth. In the war between loyalty and validation, validation wins almost every time. Modern culture's poison. If fading chemistry and the hunger for validation weren't enough, there's a third enemy of long-term relationships: modern culture itself. Society today doesn't just fail to protect marriages, it actively sabotages them. Every magazine cover, every talk show, every Instagram post, every so-called empowerment message feeds women a poison disguised as wisdom. What's the message? Simple. You deserve more. You deserve better. Never settle. Follow your heart. Happiness above all. At first glance, those slogans sound harmless, even inspiring. But underneath, they send a toxic signal. Your commitments don't matter. Your family doesn't matter. Your vows don't matter. The only thing that matters is whether you're happy in this exact moment. And if you're not, leave. Start over. Reinvent yourself. Because supposedly you're a victim of your own stability. Think about the irony. For centuries, stability was the goal of every family. Men and women fought to build something lasting, a home, a legacy, children who thrived in security. Today, stability has been rebranded as oppression. If a woman feels bored, if she feels unexcited, if she feels ordinary, culture tells her that's not a phase of life, it's a prison. And the only way out is to burn it all down. And this poison doesn't spread alone. It's reinforced by the people closest to her, her friends. Not the ones building stable families, but the divorced women who gather over wine nights and preach the gospel of you deserve better. They retell their own stories of leaving, reframing their broken marriages not as failures, but as victories. They call it bravery. They call it liberation. But what they're really doing is pushing their own regret onto someone else. Misery loves company, and nothing validates a bad decision more than watching another woman make the same one woman. So your wife sits there listening, absorbing every word. She starts to compare. They left and found happiness. Maybe I can too. Every complaint she once shrugged off suddenly feels unbearable. Every compromise she once accepted now feels like oppression. Every ordinary part of family life is reinterpreted as a chain holding her back. And then comes the algorithm. Social media knows exactly what she wants to see. Transformation stories, divorced women glowing with newfound freedom, romances blossoming at 40, 50, 60, carefully curated posts celebrating second chances and finding yourself again. She scrolls through this endless feed, comparing her messy reality, dirty dishes, screaming kids, and aging husband, to filtered fantasies of women living their best lives. And with each scroll, the poison seeps deeper. Nobody shows her the aftermath. Nobody shows her the woman spending Christmas alone because the kids chose to stay with dad. Nobody shows her crying in bed when the new boyfriend turns out to be just another disappointment. Nobody shows her exhausted, starting over at 40, realizing that chasing butterflies is draining, not empowering. Those stories don't go viral. Only the fantasy does. Meanwhile, every cultural force applauds her rebellion. Therapists tell her she's finding herself. Talk shows celebrate her courage. Friends toast to her freedom. But nobody warns her about the wreckage she leaves behind. The broken husband, the traumatized children, the shattered home. Culture doesn't care about consequences. It only cares about clicks, headlines, and the illusion of empowerment. This is modern culture's poison. It convinces women that temporary feelings matter more than permanent bonds. It glorifies destruction and mocks stability. It celebrates impulsive choices and ridicules loyalty as weakness. And millions of families are paying the price. Here's the brutal truth. When culture trains women to treat boredom as oppression and happiness as entitlement, no marriage is safe. Because no matter how loyal you are, no matter how much you provide, no matter how deeply you love, if she swallows this poison, she'll believe the problem isn't her biology or her hunger for validation. She'll believe the problem is you. And once she believes that, the end has already begun. The male dilemma. When women lose interest in long-term relationships, the damage doesn't just happen to them. It lands like a boom in the life of the man who thought he was doing everything right. For most men, the collapse of a relationship doesn't feel like drifting apart. It feels like betrayal. Sudden, brutal, incomprehensible. He looks back and thinks, I provided. I stayed loyal. I gave her my best years. I built a home. I raised children. I sacrificed. And yet, none of it seemed to matter. The woman who once looked at him like he was her entire world now looks at him like a burden. And here's the part that devastates men the most. It happens without warning. At least, without warnings, they recognize. She doesn't sit him down and explain the biology, the psychology, the cultural poison. She doesn't say, my brain chemistry has shifted, and I need novelty. Number. She rewrites history. Suddenly, the entire marriage becomes a lie. I was never really happy. You never understood me, you were controlling, you were boring. Every good memory, every vacation, every anniversary gets rebranded as fake. For him, it's like being told his entire life was an illusion. This is the male dilemma. Because when a woman falls out of love, it isn't just that her feelings change. It's that she needs to justify those changes. And the easiest way to do that is to paint him as the villain. He becomes the problem. He becomes the reason she's unhappy. And once that story takes root, nothing he says or does can change it. Men face aging differently. When a man reaches 40, society tells him he's entering his prime. Distinguished, silver fox, more attractive with age. Even as his hair thins and his belly grows, his value in the dating market can rise. Because now he has something young men don't: resources, wisdom, confidence. This gives him abundance, even if he never acts on it. Just knowing he could attract women if he wanted often keeps him steady. But women, they're told the exact opposite, that they're past their prime, that they're invisible, that every birthday is another nail in the coffin of their desirability. While men face aging with confidence, women face it with terror. And in that terror, they act out. Their midlife crisis doesn't look like buying a sports car or planning an adventure. It looks like detonating a family, walking away from loyalty, chasing a fantasy of youth that no longer exists. So what's left for the man? He's blindsided, confused, humiliated. He asks himself, what did I do wrong? And the cruelest answer is nothing. He could have been perfect, and it still wouldn't have been enough, because the problem wasn't him. It was biology, culture, and her inability to accept reality. The male dilemma is this: you are judged not by your loyalty, but by her feelings, and those feelings are fleeting. You could dedicate 20 years to building a life together, and she'll still throw it away for the thrill of being desired by someone new. And when she does, you're expected to accept it with grace. Society tells men to be understanding, give her space, work on yourself, as if self-improvement can compete with dopamine, as if therapy can replace novelty. What enrages men the most isn't just the loss, it's the rewriting, the denial of everything they built together, the family, the memories, the sacrifices, all erased so she can justify chasing a temporary high. And here's the truth no one admits. When men break down from this betrayal, society laughs. A woman leaves and she's brave. A man breaks and he's weak. But weakness isn't what destroys men. It's shock. It's being blindsided. It's realizing the rules were never explained, and the game was rigged from the start. This is the male dilemma: loving deeply, sacrificing fully, only to realize that in the end, loyalty doesn't protect you. Not from biology, not from culture, not from her need to feel alive one more time. What men must understand. At this point, the truth should be clear. Women don't lose interest in long-term relationships because men suddenly became unworthy. They lose interest because their biology shifts, their psychology demands novelty, and modern culture feeds them a steady diet of poison disguised as empowerment. You can't change that. You can't love her enough to override biology. You can't provide enough stability to compete with the thrill of validation. And you can't reason her out of a fantasy that culture celebrates at every turn. So what's a man supposed to do? Give up? Resign himself to betrayal? Number. But you must wake up. You must understand the reality of what you're facing and stop living in the fantasy that love alone will protect you. The first thing men must do is recognize the signs early. Pay attention to the shifts in her behavior. Is she suddenly obsessed with her appearance? Is she nostalgic about the past in ways she never was before? Is she spending more time with divorced friends who preach you deserve better? Is she glued to social media, chasing likes like oxygen? These are not harmless habits. They are warning signs. They are the smoke before the fire. The second thing men must do is stop blaming themselves. When she loses interest, when she says she doesn't feel the spark, your instinct will be to ask, what did I do wrong? And culture will feed that guilt. It will tell you to work harder, to change yourself, to grovel for her attention. But here's the harsh truth. You could be the perfect husband tomorrow, and it wouldn't matter. Because perfect is predictable. Predictable doesn't release dopamine. Stop carrying a burden that was never yours. The third thing men must do is protect themselves and their children. If you see the storm coming, don't ignore it. Document everything. Secure your finances. Build your strength physically, emotionally, spiritually. Because if she chooses validation over loyalty, she won't just walk away quietly. She will rewrite history, paint you as the villain, and take as much as she can in the process. Don't be naive. Be prepared. But here's the final lesson, the one most men never hear. Not all women are the same. Some understand the truth. Some accept that beauty fades, that validation is a drug to be resisted, that excitement is temporary, but family is forever. These women exist, but they are rare because everything in modern culture is pushing against them. If you are with one of these women, recognize her value. If you're not, prepare for the reality of what's coming. Understand this. Your worth as a man does not come from her feelings. Her fading desire is not proof of your failure. Her panic about aging is not your responsibility. Her chase for validation is not a reflection of your value. You are not defined by her crisis. So what must men understand? That long-term relationships are not guaranteed. That biology is not your ally. That culture is not on your side, and that loyalty alone does not protect you. But knowledge is power. Once you understand the truth, you stop living blind. You stop being blindsided. You stop being the man who says, I never saw it coming. Because now you see it. You see the signs. You understand the biology. You recognize the poison, and you're ready. The brutal truth is this. Women lose interest in long-term relationships not because you failed, but because they can't accept the fading of a feeling that was never meant to last. And if you don't understand this, you'll be destroyed by it. But if you do, you'll face reality with open eyes. You'll stop chasing illusions. You'll protect yourself. And you'll never again be blindsided by the secret reason women lose interest. Now you understand the secret reason women lose interest in long-term relationships. You've seen the truth no one else dares to say out loud. Don't let this knowledge go to waste. Protect yourself, protect your family, and never again be blindsided. If this video opened your eyes, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss the next truth that every man needs to hear. And don't stop here. Go watch the next video, because what you'll learn there might save you from the mistakes most men never see coming.